Minute answer questions are answered with a single word or phrase. Let's look. Is the end customer upstream or downstream from the manufacturer? Downstream. Remember, with upstream and downstream, it flows towards the customer. Is a Tier 1 supplier associated with inbound or outbound logistics of another firm? That would be inbound. Remember that any supplier would be the inbound logistics for another firm. In the supplier positioning model, the X and Y axes are composed of what? Well, this will take more than one phrase. But let's think about this. The x-axis is your annual expenditure. And your y-axis, there's a lot of different ways to phrase it. You could say supply vulnerability. Vulnerability. Whoops, is that even going to fit on the page? Or risk, supply risk, risk exposure. Oh, because let's think about this, the supplier positioning matrix, what are you doing? You are classifying different categories of supply according to how much you spend and then how risky it is otherwise. Now, next minute answer question, supplier preferencing. The supplier preferencing model, what does core represent? Core represents high attractiveness of account is what I'm writing, and simultaneously, because it's another 4-box model, high value of business. Because unlike the similar sounding supplier positioning model, the supplier preferencing model is a map that you use to categorize potential suppliers. They would consider you core if those two things were true. Now, next question. Does a centralized supply management function, centralized, have purchasing decisions assigned to individual functions or managers, notice the plural, in each organization's locations? Okay, that's easy to answer. No, it wouldn't be centralized if it did. 6, who has greater authority, a sales representative or a sales agent? That answer is the sales agent. Only the sales agent can bind the organization in a contract. In purchasing, a bid or cost estimate provided by a potential supplier is commonly called a what? Important term in purchasing and procurement. We don't yet generally use in conversation. A bid or cost estimate is a tender. Oh, now, wait, it wraps around to the next page. In purchasing, when someone acts with authority they don't formally possess, this is known as either apparent authority or actual authority. If they don't possess it, it can't be actual authority. It must be apparent authority. And let's see what else. In purchasing, a PO is understood to stand for purchase order. Are standard terms and conditions for a contract often referred to as boilerplate or ABC policy? Boilerplate. Copy, paste. The favored type of negotiation that generally provides the best results is called, okay, here's just something to remember, principled negotiation. And then finally, last minute answer question, comparing your organization's processes and performance metrics, comparing with another top performing or best in class organizations called what that is, and you probably have heard this in conversation, known as benchmarking.